Sure, it's recording.
And welcome to the Glacially Musical YouTube review. I, of course, am Nik Cameron of the musical, hopefully looking fantabulous more than normal, joined by my good friend, the man that can fix any computer problem, Chip, the IT guy. Chakas, how we doing today, buddy?
I'm hanging in there, buddy. By a thread, but I'm hanging in there. Happy Memorial Day, if it's a happy thing. A respectful Memorial Day, solemn Memorial Day.
Agreed. It is Memorial Day. As we're doing this, I try to keep it pretty low key personally, because we've got a lot of people in my family that didn't come home from wars, and I've got one of my closest friends, the best man at my wedding, did 2 tours of duty in the Middle East, and he almost didn't come home in both of them. So, big doings there.
Yeah, my father was a veteran. My uncle was a veteran. Rest in peace, both of those guys. So yeah, I always, we've turned it into kind of because it's a 3-day weekend, because it's a day off of work, because there's this unofficial start of summer in America, we have turned it into a party holiday, but it really used to be a very solemn. I mean, you think about your grandparents and your parents, like Memorial Day was a stark reminder that people went to war, served their country, and did not come home mostly.
I think it's a very different thing now that, and this is going to be the last thing we say about Memorial Day. I think it's a very different thing now that we have a volunteer army rather than a conscripted army. And we should go back to the conscription, and that's all the politics I'm going to get into. Let me do my quick beer check. It's a little bit later for me. Keefy has been only awake for a little bit. Got the microphone down for a good pop.
Nice.
Trying to get this on camera. If I look better, hopefully I do, because I bought a camera. I spared no expense. $18 for a high definition camera, because I have been, each week as we do this, I want to get a little bit better. And my little laptop computer microphone wasn't getting it done, so I got this, and now I've got a new camera, which is up here. So if I'm looking in the wrong place at all of the times, I'm sorry, but hopefully I look good doing it.
You do, my friend. What beer do you have? We skip right over the beer check.
I have a Squatters Double IPA, which is just one of my absolute favorite DIPAs. It is a nice filtered copper colored lager, or ale, excuse me. But so
I don't have a beer check because it's like 11:30 in the morning here in California. I am drinking an espresso coffee. In my I'm staying. I went to. We'll segue from the beer check, just to say that I did have a very fine craft beer yesterday at a music festival. I will talk about during the news segment, but I'm not at home, and the only beer, there's White Claw in the fridge and Sapporo. Exactly. I'm not going to drink either of those before a
Sapporo
coffee.
is delicious.
I know. I'm going to probably take them home. She said like she had guests over who brought it, and she doesn't want it. So I'm going to have a Waterloo. I'm going to drink a bottle of water. I'm going to drink this Nespresso. I'm living on an Advil and a Kind bar right now.
I actually had coffee right before I logged into the meeting. So yeah, but I've been up. I have mowed the lawn, cooked lunch. I've had a pretty productive day. But do you have a vinyl check this week?
I do have a vinyl check, even though I am not at my home. Ooh. Because I used to live here, and some of my mail still goes here. Did you mute yourself? I can't hear you.
No, I'm not muted.
Are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay, good. Just checking. Because of technical difficulties, I had to move to my phone. So everything is squiffy now for me. But I have a vinyl check because I had mail come here while I moved away the last year. And some of my purchases are still showing up here. So I have finally, I think it arrived actually technically here a few months ago, the split EP from Moths and the Stone Eye from Puerto Rico. Let's see if you can see that without the glare and the light. This is a beautiful gatefold vinyl. I'm not sure. It comes with a poster that's really beautiful that you will not appreciate on my cell phone camera, so I will not show it. I think it's got a lyric sheet card. It came with some kind of special coaster with a download code. I believe it comes with a download code, and I did buy a special swirly vinyl. So let's see what the special swirly vinyl. It comes in a paper sleeve with a Mylar inside and a gold vinyl or
Nice.
mustard yellow vinyl. Shout out to Moth's PR, in particular, Wesley McGrone, writes for Ghost Cult, is a music marketing expert as well as a journalist. So he writes some reviews for us. He's affiliated with Ghost Cult. He also has several bands. He also manages, I think, bands. So very glad to get this, spin this bad boy soon. And that's my vinyl check for today. At least I had one, even though I'm not home.
Very cool. I also have a vinyl check today. Most of it I shouldn't, but I do. So sorry, financial lockdown that I put myself in, that I broke out of. Starts off with a new copy of Led Zeppelin 4. And when I say new, I mean new to me. This is a second pressing of the record. And the reason why I spent too much money on it, I spent $30 on this thing. As you can see in my nice new spiffy camera, this thing is in immaculate shape.
Yes, the classic Atlantic Records label right there.
And it hasn't been cleaned yet, and it looks that good.
Mm.
So once it gets a little bit of a whack through the cleaner, which I've been real lazy about lately.
Now again, are you still using the cleaning device, or are you just wiping them down with the towel?
Oh no! I use the device that we did. You know what? We should do another care. We should do a Care of Vinyl YouTube only version, because we've already got it in
the pod.
Yeah, but so we'll get to that. That I paid $30 for that one. Market value on the internet is $15. However, I got it in the Wild at a store. So, and at the same store, he had just taken in a Black Sabbath collection, and he even had Headless Cross. He couldn't decide if he was keeping it or not. I'm like, dude, it's hot garbage. And he's like, well, why do you want it then? Because I can't help myself, sir. I have a problem. That's why. Next record, Free, Fire and Water. This past weekend, we actually did a Paul Kossoff solo record on the Department of Mental Antiquities. Picked that one up for $15. Got it at the one of the antique malls I go to, and really good shape. And I mean, honestly, I'm not a big Free fan, and if you're going to buy any Free record, that's the one to have. It's got every Free song most everybody knows. Now,
for those that don't know, Free is the precursor to Bad Company. Is that fair?
Unfortunately, I hate Bad Company.
You do. I don't know why. It's irrational.
Mostly because of the music.
It's the best thing Paul Rogers ever did.
It's better than The Firm. I'll give you that. I mean, there's not much that isn't better than The Firm. The Firm is an amazing waste of an ability. But my last vinyl check today, and I'm going to thank the anonymous benefactor who lives in San Francisco, who's on the podcast with me today, for sending me this one. Keefy actually sent me a copy of Metal Massacre, and it is the clear version from Record Store Day this year. Sounds great, looks amazing. We're going to talk about that a bit more.
Fully today. Remastered.
Let's wait. Let's get to that when we get to that.
All right. You're welcome, my friend. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, and I'm going to get a nice little bundle sent your way, because I've got a bunch of stuff that I think that you could appreciate and that I don't want anymore, and I got doubles of and all kinds of stuff like that. So
cool. I'm moving out of my place on June 30th, so either get it to me then or get it to me when I end up in my next place.
We'll work that out. But so this normally would be the beginning of the King Diamond episode 5, but I decided no, because there's a lot of garbage in the King Diamond decade. And I've never heard the next one that was lined up for this week, but I've heard the one after it, and it's absolute hot garbage. And I didn't want to talk about King Diamond being hot garbage again. So
in our pursuit of greatness, we are definitely super ambitious, like in what we attempt to chew off, and it does bite us in the ass sometimes. And it's not that we don't want to review stuff that's sometimes disappointing, because that's good conversation for us, and we love King Diamond and Merciful Fate.
But it's like so long.
If it's trudgery, it's not worth it for us to do. You know what I'm saying? It's just not
I
worth it for us to
just
do
couldn't
these.
picture myself listening to those two albums again.
That is completely fair, my man.
So now we'll move on into the news section for the week. If you don't mind, I'd like to go first.
You should, because you have the big important news of the week.
Yes, this weekend, Creatures Fest, the Vinnie Vincent Return to Form Festival has happened. So
you can't, I'm wearing my glasses. You can't see, but there's tears of joy under here. Go ahead.
Oh my God, I have been studying this and watching the videos and following the tweets and the kiss. Oh my God, I am exploding about this one because it's so ridiculous. Let's just finger fudge this son bitch and let's just do this. So night one, Ace Frehley plays, does his bit, whatever. Ace Frehley's Ace Frehley. He is, he's milk that's 2 weeks past expiry. It is what it is. Peter Criss comes out, sings Beth with him, and they do an acoustic rendition of Beth. Not great, not awful. And then Peter Criss, after knee surgery, sings Strange Ways with Ace Frehley on the drums. Peter Criss played Strange Ways on the drums with Ace Frehley. So you got to give it up to him for that one. Nobody expected that. And that was a good little performance. Then there were a bunch of other bands whose names I don't care about. Quiet Riot's one of them, or What Passes for Quiet Riot. Kind of Quiet Riot, Semi-Quiet Riot, Noisy Riot, Quiet Stroll in the park at AARP. Then, and I'll get to this one last. I'll get to Vinny last because Vinny was Saturday. So Bruce comes out, and again, Peter joins him. Peter was not performing as such. He was coming out here and there, and comes out, sings a couple tunes with Peter, or Peter comes out, sings a couple tunes with Bruce, and everything's fine and great. And Bruce Kulick plays the entirety of Revenge front to back. And I really want to see Bruce Kulick do a tour very much. I would. He with this band where he's playing the Kiss music that Kiss has forgotten or no longer can play or doesn't want to play, whatever. Now, let's talk about Saturday night, the Vinnie Vincent Now, this was billed as Vinnie Vincent and band playing the entire Creatures of the Night set from Rock in Rio front to back with a band. He was headlining, going on last. Well, Vinny decided, no, I'm going on first. So the openers, like Pretty Boy Floyd and Vixen, played after him. He goes on stage 90 minutes late. Okay, with me so far? Also scheduled for this was Bruce Kulick and Ace Frehley to join him for a couple tunes. So he starts playing before the crowd is even allowed. Oh, and photos and videos are allowed per Neil Davis, promoter of Creatures Fest. They're going to take it public. They're going to do it like it's a regular concert in 2022. You know what I mean? So he starts playing as the crowd is being let in. He starts playing, no one else, because there's no one else on stage. So he's standing on top of this tank that Neil Davis recreated for this, just wanking what he would call full shred, which is about a squillion notes, about 1,000,000 miles an hour that I could play on my best day, except I could do it better because I would be in a key. He's just, that's all it is. And it's sloppy, it's grotesque. No band on stage. He does this for 20 minutes. Then he starts playing. He played I Love It Loud to a backing track and a bass player, it's AKA Hype Man. And then Bruce and Vinny come out Bruce and Ace come out to Vinny to play Cold Gin and War Machine to a backing track. Ace even says on stage, I can play anything, but I need a drummer. What is this? So there you go.
If I can commentate, I have seen none of this because I was at a festival all weekend that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But I have to say, the reason Vinnie Vincent isn't a bigger success in his life is because he never figured out how the game works. You can't do things in half measures. This is going to be my theme for all of June as we approach June. You have to do things full, full bore, all out, or not at all in. And Vinnie Vincent is a half-stepping mother fudger his whole life. his whole career as a musician. I'm not talking about his talent, because on paper, he's the most talented person Kiss has ever had besides Bruce Kulick and Eric Singer. The problem is, and that's not to disparage anyone else, I'm just being factual about musical talent.
Actually true. He has more talent
about,
than anybody.
He's more talented than anybody. The problem is, because he knows he's more talented than anybody, he never figured out the music business part of it and had to do everything appropriately, because he was Molly coddled his whole life. He's got a Pollyanna view of how big a star he is. Wrong. Okay. And he does shit like this, straight up amateur hour, which if he did it right, he could squash down every bad thing he ever did in the past that he has to own up to. He barely ever has. And he could squash down a lot of the shit that's talked on him today. And I'm rooting for him. You're rooting for him. We want him to fulfill his potential. And then he's like, never does.
No, never. Never anything close. So
yeah.
Can he still play fast and loose and like shit? Yeah. Yes, he can.
Yeah, Vinnie Vincent is the Reggie Bush of football. He really is, like the Reggie Bush in the NFL. Heisman Trophy winner, most talented guy to ever walk on a football field. Marginal career with occasional flashes of greatness. That's the whole.
He is the JD Drew of the bass of the guitar world. JD Drew played for the Cardinals. Crazy amounts of talent. Had everything going for him except his hard work. No hard work. Cardinals trade him, and they win a World Series the year they trade him.
I'd be mad if I had paid to go to that thing. And I love Vinnie Vincent. And I mean, look, I'm dying to see Bruce do that. I would just, anything to hear Unholy live, whatever you want, I'll pay it. I love Ace and Peter. Even a bad Ace and Peter together in person would give me the feelies.
Yeah,
I love Beth. I don't care. Unapologetically love Peter's my favorite member of Kiss. Always will be forever. Since I'm 4 years old. And
the worst part about this is actually the best case scenario that the Kiss fandom came up with, is that he would come and play something, but not what he promised to play.
I don't understand why it's so hard for him. He could be doing so well if he just applied himself.
You know, he is a self-destructive individual. I don't know what his problems are. I'm not going to try to diagnose Vinnie Vincent on this podcast. Let me just
sexy.
I'm not.
Sexy Nick action right here with the Gravehopper shirt.
Yeah. It's glow in the dark. It's my quarantine War Machine shirt.
I am also wearing a glow in the dark shirt, but it's not dark enough in this room for it to glow.
But so Vinny has issues that he just hasn't sorted out yet. And the moment he sorts if he had sorted those issues out at any time, he would be a genuine star, I think. But as of now, he's somebody that 45 people would die for, and somebody that the rest of the world doesn't know. So moving on from Vinnie Vincent.
It's a tragedy because it could be so good.
Mm-hmm.
And the Kiss fans deserve this. They deserve. That's why Gene and Paul will not fuck with Vinny. Like straight up, that's why. They won't even talk to him because like this shit.
Correct.
They'll deal with Ace somehow, but not Vinny.
Well, Ace might be late, but he performs and he does what he says he's going to do. Regardless of how, all the terrible things Ace has done, which he's done plenty, he has always turned up for every concert eventually. And then played what he said he would play.
It does what it says on the tin, right?
Correct.
Oy vey. Here's my quick news piece as we try to keep this thing from rolling off the tracks. I am going to have to, by the way, because I am recording because of technical difficulties off of my phone, I need you to run the track listing of the rundown later and keep us on time because I have none of those things available.
I'm good. We are good. Roll. News now.
Roll.
Go, bro.
So as we move into June, it is the beginning of the festival season in America and the rest of the world. It's heating up. There was the disastrous Welcome to Rockville. It's not Welcome to Rockville's fault that there is terrible weather in Florida every May. They had 3 days, parts of 3 days canceled because of weather, missed 3 headliners of a 4-day festival, including Slipknot, Korn, Guns N' Roses. None of them played.
That suck a lot of ass.
was not safe. And I understand that fans are very angry, but you got to keep the fans safe. And
hey, you got to do the right thing. If anything, the last 2 years have taught us.
But yeah, we did get 9 Inch Nails full performance, and we did get Porno for Pyro's first show in 26 years. Amazing. And amazing. Wow. And they played Jane's Addiction songs because Jane's had dropped out. Porno for Pyro was replaced.
Yeah, I love that. That is like my favorite story I've ever heard.
Yeah, Dave Navarro has long COVID apparently, and he just can't travel, and he just can't tour. He's quite ill, actually. Not like deathly ill, but he's just not well enough to participate. He was hoping to will his body into shape to be able to perform. And you know that Dave Navarro, probably one of the greatest guitarists of the last 30 plus years, can't do anything else but Dave Navarro music, but he's great at whatever he does.
Yeah, I have only ever seen him as a member of the Chili Peppers, which to me was the best the Chili Peppers have ever sounded. That show,
yeah,
amazing show.
I love that album and tour. That would be a really good album for the Department of Metal Antiquities if you haven't done it already. One Hot Minute.
We've talked about it many times. We did Dave Navarro's solo record.
I'm sure Trust No One.
Yeah,
I love that record. I'm sure Duncan despises the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Just knowing him, I bet he hates them.
I don't know.
We love you, Duncan. We love you, Duncan. We spend every week praising and hailing the great Duncan Evans. Please go buy his music at duncanevans.com. Anyway, but he hates, I know he must hate them. As a great singer and songwriter, he must listen to Ketis and just die a little inside every time.
All the shubba-lubs.
The shubba-lubba-lubba-dubba-dubba.
Yes.
Copyright, my best friend Curtis Dunlap, 1985. Anyway, what is my news though beside Welcome to Rockville and that disaster? I went to a music festival this whole weekend. I barely woke up today from it. I'm exhausted. I think I did 35,000 steps in 4 days or 3 days. I know that's a lot. That's nothing to healthy people. To a chubby, fat, sedentary person like myself, I want to die inside. But I went to the Bottle Rock Napa Festival. I went last fall when they finally brought it back. It's normally this weekend every year, Memorial Day, headlined by Metallica, which is, of course, we're going to be talking about Metallica today. What else? Metallica, Pink last night, Black Crowes, Mount Westmore, which was Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, Too Short, and E40. Especially if you're in the Bay Area like we are, basically. E40 and Too Short are as big as Snoop and Cube. But obviously Snoop is a cultural phenomenon, and Cube is a huge movie star on top of being a legendary rapper. So really cool. And Cube had to wait until
my favorite thing about Ice Cube is in the show Boondocks, when Riley gets kidnapped with Gangstalicious, and he goes, I just wanted to be like Ice Cube. I thought he was so cool. Ice Cube, the guy that was in family movies? He was a gangster rapper.
Exactly.
I always got to bring that up whenever I hear the name Ice Cube.
At Barbershop. America's Most Wanted. Totally different guy, but the same guy. And O'Shea Jackson Jr., by the way, shout out to him. He's becoming quite the good actor. Ice's son who played him in the No Sleep Till whatever that movie was, Straight Outta Compton. Sorry.
Yeah.
No Sleep Till Brooklyn is the as yet unmade Beastie Boys movie I want to make. Anyway.
Also, O'Shea was amazing in that role.
He was fantastic as his dad. He looks like him. He sounds like him. And, but yeah, so the festival, just for the quick points, is gourmet food, wine country Napa. So it's wine, craft beer, fancy food at $15 to $25 a plate of food or a serving of food. But like, it's such a cushy and fun experience. It's so chill. It's so safe. It's so low key. And the layout is the same now. I went twice. So this year I had the advantage. I knew what to expect. I knew how to avoid the crowds. And I would say like the amount of people was more than last fall, which was really just coming out of COVID here in Northern California. And honestly, for the Sunday, so Metallica headlined Saturday. For the Sunday, it was double the people of Friday and Saturday. It was a mob yesterday. So it was exhausting to just kind of like walk extra to get around crowds. And just for my own personal, I'm wearing my Bottle Rack hat from last year. Had a great time. And I'm just going to quickly discuss the Metallica performance because that's what we do here on this podcast. We talk about Metallica sometimes. Cannot help it. So Metallica, it's their first show. They just came off a tour in South America, which is James had the emotional moment on stage in Brazil. Like, I don't think I'm good anymore. You know, my basic standing philosophy is that when Metallica is not doing their own thing, they're in control of like their own tour. They struggle when it's not everything their way. And so at a festival, it's mostly their way, but it's not entirely their way. So, they come out, they have their stage, the big Bottle Rock stage. They have their video screens, and some of their pyro, but it's not going to be the full thing.
Right.
You're just not going to get the full meal deal.
You can't. It's impossible.
They played Napa on Friday. They flew to Boston on Saturday. They headlined Boston Calling last night in Boston. And so Friday they came out, and I'm going to say it was kind of an odd set list. And the set list is on my phone, so I don't have it handy, but I will just say it was just a little very mid-tempo and chill. They opened with Hardwired and then played The Memory Remains second.
If you talk just a little bit, I can pull up the set.
Yeah. But I'm going to say, so first of all, the sound was mixed very badly for them the first half of the set, which also happened last year for GNR. So it makes me think it's not Metallica. Metallica drives into a town to do a tour, and they drive in 18 semi-rigs with their entire own sound system. They have their sound guy, their soundboard. They take out whatever's in the venue, move it out, move their shit in, and that's what they do. So it's to their liking.
I got it. I'm ready if you want me.
We don't have to do the whole set list. They played a good set list, but it was weird. The pacing was weird.
Okay. The only odd tune I see here is Whiskey in the Jar.
Which I don't care for it, but everybody loved it. Everybody loved it. The crowd went crazy. I stood next to a young girl who saw Metallica for the first time, and she was losing her freaking mind, and it was beautiful. And I was next to a woman a little more my age who had not seen them, though she's a Bay Area native and skipped every time. She felt like Bottle Rock Napa was the time to go to drink wine with her husband and go see Metallica and educate him on metal. And she and I were vibing, and he was like, "Why are you talking to that guy?" Because I know the music, buddy. And you should make an effort to be interested in things your wife is interested in. That's the success of a healthy relationship. But they kind of played. It was weird because they just came out literally a week and a half ago. They were in South America, and then they played Friday, and it seemed like they hadn't played in a long time together. They were a little sloppy, which is okay. But there was Wherever I May Roam. You play guitar a little. It's one of the easier Metallica songs to play.
All the Black Album songs are.
Right? So there was an entire middle section, the second verse of Wherever I May Roam, where Lars stopped playing entirely, and it seemed like they didn't know what to do next. So there was a weird, the tape is rewinding, it was jammed, and now it's I'm not talking about anything pre-recorded. I'm saying the band on stage was discombobulated for a good 30 seconds. James is singing and the band is out of sync. They don't know what they're doing. And then they kind of all okay, let's get it together for this next chorus. But it was what the fuck is going on with them?
It happens.
So it happens. Yeah, it could be age. It could be just catching exhaustion from, again, they're touring, as you have mentioned many times, less and less and less dates every year with more and more time spread between them. That is how they're able to stay fresh. They did play 3 Ride the Lightning jams in a row. And as you know, Ride the Lightning is my jam. They played Creeping Death, Fade to Black, and
Bells.
For Whom the Bell Tolls, all in a row. Not in that order, but all in a row. And
it looks like a very good set list. They played.
Yeah, I started to head for
16 songs.
They played the same set list last night in Boston, except for Whiplash instead of Hardwired, which is much better. And with the Whiplash, I'm sure video opening, and they had their awesome visuals. They still had their video screen, so I just they're still good. It was the least good, quality time of the 5 times I have seen Metallica in the last year. This was the worst. It's still kind of a C plus B minus. They've been an A a couple of times, and they've been in the B range a couple of times, 3 times an A. But yeah, we're a little weird. Kirk sounded great. And it was a funny moment where Kirk and Robert tried to frog walk around each other, where Kirk imitated Robert doing the crab walk. It was hilarious.
Nice.
Hilarious.
I think they did that when during the solo when I saw them last.
Yeah. And I will also just mention, again, not to get overly political, but I kind of can't help myself. A lot of artists this weekend, and it was not so Metallica was great. I saw all 3 bands of Metallica's children. They were all varying degrees of excellent. I got to meet Lars' sons yesterday. I didn't get to do an interview with them, but I met them and talked to them about Ghost Cult and themselves. They have a record coming out. Bastardane is the band that's probably the best musical. That's James's son on drums. And the rest of the band is from Georgia. And those guys sound like early Prog and Helmet. Otto is like crossover thrash, sounds like Suicidal. That's Ty Trujillo's band, and Taipei Houston is Lars' son's band, and it's kind of an alternative rock, indie rock, stoner metal, psychedelic metal. Weird but good.
Cool.
Not too different than a little bit like Healing Magic, Max Cavalera's son's band. So all that being said and done, good weekend. Enjoyed a lot of other performances that were not metal or rock, and had a great time. Ate some delicious food, probably one of the best chicken sandwiches in my life, best paella I've ever had. You can really go nuts with the gourmet food up here. Skip the wine, it was too hot. Had one good beer yesterday. I'll text you what that beer is. And it was a very good IPA. There are the big brands are all there. Lagunitas, Dogfish, Hop, whatever. All kinds of different breweries are there, but like I skip those because you can get that anywhere. I don't need to pay $14 for a Blue Moon. I could get for $7 on my block at the bar. So I want to have something unique to the place.
Smart choices.
So yeah, festival hard. I'm suffering for it today, physically destroyed. I'm probably taking the day off from Ghost Cult, a rare day off of doing absolutely nothing until tonight when I get home back to San Fran. And yeah, man, good times.
Well, if I could transition from the latest thing Metallica did into the
first.
very, very first, actually the second thing Metallica did. And we'll discuss that more as we get to it. But we are this chaser. We had 4 shots of King Diamond, mostly goodness. Now we got to get that chaser. Because the thing about the chasers is when we do a series, when we take the shots, some of it goes down easy. Sometimes you're taking shots of Maker's Mark. And then sometimes you're getting shots of Old Crow. So you got to get a nice little, as we did back in the day when we were taking shots of Jim Beam, little Mountain Dew to calm the throat. We do shot of Jim Beam and then take a sip of Mountain Dew because we were classy motherfuckers. But so we are talking about something good and wonderful in this world, which is the Metal Blade, the very first Metal Blade release by Brian Slagel, Metal Massacre. The Metal Massacre is an interesting kind of thing. It was the first time American metal was featured. Up until this point, there was no such thing as American metal. Metal, what became metal, and even for the next 10 years, was still a largely English affair. You think about Deep Purple, you think about Led Zeppelin, you think about all of these popular heavy rock bands and proto metal. They were all English. Even Jimi Hendrix was basically English. I'm sorry, it's true.
He had to go to England to make it. He couldn't make it here. He wasn't
going to make it here, so they took him to England, and he made it there. So when you think about every rock star you've seen in a sitcom, a fictional rock star, they're always English. So here we have the first time American metal and American rock is really being featured in a new and different way, which is awesome because none of these bands were signed. And we've got a real big mixed bag about where these bands went, what happened to them. But let's first talk about the elephant in the room. 2 elephants, actually. One white, one pink. The white elephant, of course, is the fact that Metal Massacre Volume 1, first pressing, because there have been 4 pressings of this album. The Volume 1 first pressing had 10 tracks featuring the very first recording Metallica ever did with Lloyd Grant and Dave Mustaine playing lead guitar. And Ron McGovney was not on it. James played the bass. So the very first recording Metallica ever did apparently sounded, the review that they editorialized in one of the Metallica comic books I read back in high school said, it sounded like a lobotomized chimpanzee spinning sandpaper on a turntable. That was the description of the quality of the recording. So second pressing comes out. James Hetfield says to Brian Slagel, I want you to use this version. This version was the version that would show up on No Life Till Leather. So a more professional sounding recording, all 4 members playing on it, including Dave Mustaine and including Ron McGovney. Then they also changed out Steeler for Black and Blue, which I don't understand, but hey, you do what you do.
I'm going to tell you that I am, as you know, I am not an Yngwie Malmsteen fan. Do not care for the dude. Do not care
that
for
is Yngwie.
Do not care for Ron Keel at all as a person, and he's an okay singer. I don't jizz all over the place every time he opens his mouth like some hard rock and metal fans. I'm perfectly okay with Black and Blue over Steeler.
Yeah, it's we'll get to that. Then on the third pressing, they kicked it down to 9 tracks. I'm not sure. Oh, one of them. No, they're both there. What is the difference on the third one? We are missing a track.
There might have been a thing where Ratt's record label didn't let
Ratt.
them keep
Yeah, Ratt
track
is missing
because Ratt's record label was like Ratt is not allowed to have a song on another label because they were a major label band.
So now the pressing we're going to be discussing today is the fourth pressing, the 2022 Record Store Day, official Record Store Day pressing, which came out last month, which has 11 tracks. So what did they do? They put every single track on here. So we have Ratt, we have Steeler, we have the greatest band ever to come out of Seattle, Washington that wasn't that great, Black and Blue. Actually, I don't even know if they came out of... No, I think they were from Portland, now that I think about it. But anyway, so I don't want to go too deep into each particular track because we would go for decades. I could easily give you the highlights, but I think we should do better than that. Starts off with Steeler, Cold Day in Hell. Yngwie's not on here.
I thought he was, though, originally. He was in the band at that time the Metal Massacre came out. So I don't know if they also subbed out a different version.
Michael Dunnigan is who's on here.
Weird, because he was definitely in the original Incantation or Incarnation.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Maybe Yngwie didn't allow them to use his track, which is also a distinct possibility.
That would be peak Yngwie.
In the words of Butthead, he is a chode smoker. I don't like that guy at all. I don't care about his guitar playing.
It is impossible. I don't know the man, but from what I have seen, I cannot imagine enjoying that man's company.
The best thing about him is when he's drunk in the Pantera home videos and they try to give him donuts. There's nothing good about it. I don't care. Come at me, bro, online. I don't think he's good.
I disagree. He's a good guitar player, but as a human, I'm going to say no. So, not a bad track. Good opener. It's fine. Next, we get with Bitch, Live for the Whip. Now, this is a band that kind of came and went. They had one album, and that's it. Which is unfortunate, because I think this track is frankly amazing.
It's amazing. They were amazing live, apparently. I did not see them. They were the precursor to Vixen. They are a hard rock, heavy metal, glam rock band, and they were great.
Yeah, they're the precursor to Vixen, but they're good.
Ouch. Brutal.
Do you want to see Vixen right now?
No.
There you go. Do you want to see Bitch right now?
I would.
See, there's a difference. There's a pretty significant difference between those two answers. One, no, I don't know.
Actually, two, Vixen is still playing, and they're apparently pretty good.
I know they were at Creatures Fest.
They played after Vinny.
Yes, they played after Vinny on the night Vinny headline.
Continue. I'm going to continue laughing. You continue.
All right, I'm going to put the tokens in. Okay. All right. Oh damn, what's his name? The dude from Mortal Kombat. Continue. Anyway, so Malice, Captive of Light. Now, I'm not a big Malice fan. I do have their first album that I picked up at Music Record Shop in Midtown St. Louis, which is a KC95 on-air promo that was never played. If you think Judas Priest is amazing, you might really love these guys, except for the fact they sound identical to Judas Priest.
But that might be the reason why people like them.
If you played Malice and Judas Priest back to back to somebody who didn't know either band, not that anybody knows Malice, really, they would never be able to tell a difference. I mean, it is a carbon copy. They put out their debut a few years later in the beginning on Atlantic Records. That's the one I have. They put out a follow-up, fell apart. And then in 2012, some of them reunited. I don't know how many, maybe all of them. If I guess, if they could all get time off of their job at the grocery store at this point, to make an album called Brand New Gods with a Z or something. And I'm like, dude, you're in your 50s. Please don't use Z's for S's.
I did that in my 20s.
I did that in my teens. I mean, James Hetfield can get away with it because he's James fucking Hetfield.
James Hetfield named one of the bands I'm in that has a word with a Z in it, and he picked it. So, like, I think that's a good seal of approval. Granted, that was in 1996, but all right.
Next, we move on into Ratt Tell the World. Was not familiar with this tune. This is a different Ratt than what we know. This is a Ratt that, had they been led down, they could have easily gone down the Metallica Slayer path rather than the Ratt path.
It's a very new album, a little more even punk rock than new album. But it is the very first song ever by Ratt. It's their first song ever.
Yeah, it's a good song. I never thought I would say that about Ratt, but here we are. And then, of course, as we know, Ratt goes on to basically conquer the world. And this is, for the most part, as far as I know, Stephen Pearcy, Robin Crosby, Warren DeMartini. Who are we missing? We're missing somebody. Matt Thorne. Oh, we're missing. No, they're both there.
Juan is not there, and Rick and who's the drummer?
No, Bobby Blotter.
Blotzer.
Yeah.
Bobby Blotto.
I don't know what I'm saying, man. So that's my impression for him from behind the music.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. When he became a surfer dude with puka shells. You know what? I don't know what the proper look to do. I don't know where you go after glam, but I would not have guessed puka shells. But here we are. Then we move on into Octane by Avatar.
Not the Avatar, not the Swedish Avatar of today, obviously. An original band called Avatar.
No idea who these people are.
Came and went. Forget them.
I don't recall. I don't even recall this tune. Now we get to the good side, in my opinion.
The second half is definitely better than the first.
Side one is actually a pretty damn good side.
Pretty good though, yeah. Between Bitch and the Ratt song is pretty, and Malice. The Malice song's good. It's just they disappeared.
Malice would have been so much better if they didn't sound just like Judas Priest.
Yeah.
It makes it hard for me to listen to them, quite honestly. It's too close. So now we do side two, Black and Blue, Chains Around Heaven. And this is, as far as I know, the classic lineup of Black and Blue.
Which your boy.
Featuring Jamie St. James, which is the greatest. That is a better stage name than Vinnie Vincent.
That is the greatest bad stage name ever.
Oh, yeah. The only stage name I've heard that's better than this is what Eric Carr wanted to be, which was Rusty Blade.
Yes. When Jason Mewes shows up at Zach and Miri Make a Porno and they're like, "What's your name?" Lester the molester, cock and stuff. Oh my God, that porn name is amazing. And Mewes goes, "What? I can have a porn name? I'm gonna be Pete Jones."
Yeah. So this is probably my favorite Black and Blue tune I've ever heard.
It is awesome.
And it's good. And then they get signed to labels, and then Gene Simmons produces them and steals their songs. That's my favorite part about Gene's producing Black and Blue is he produced them and then stole their songs. How
about he produced Van Halen's demos and couldn't steal any of their songs because he couldn't play any of them?
Really? I mean, yeah, that's probably about right. But they could play Nasty Nasty by Black and Blue, which they turned into Domino, which is just as cringeworthy.
I love the music. I don't like the lyrics.
I like the music.
And his singing, you got to admit his singing is pretty good on that track.
No,
but not the words at all.
The studio version of that track is terrible because they played it in standard.
Oh, it should be in D?
They always played in E flat back then, but they put this one in standard. So when they did it live, they played it in E flat because Kiss, I don't think, understands the concept of you can have guitars in different tunings. And that guitar tech that he can hand you guitars based on the tuning. So they always played it in E flat, and then they played it in E flat, and they were in their natural spot, and it sounded much better. but the lyrics are a bit awful.
Ooh.
Yeah. Moving on to Death of the Sun by Surith Ungol.
Second best track on this whole record.
Agreed.
In my opinion.
Completely agree. Now, I would have thought Surith Ungol would have been a Swedish black metal band from like 1998.
A la Opeth.
Yeah, Opeth.
With a similar Tolkien name.
Yeah, what's oh shoot. Who's the black metal band that Celtic Frost became?
Hellhammer.
Not Hellhammer, that's not the one.
Oh, Triptychon?
Triptychon. I mean, again, this is a name like Triptychon. This is a name like Dimmu Borgir. I mean, but no, this is just some rando American dudes. And then they sang in this King Diamond falsetto that King Diamond could never pull off.
So the fun thing about this band is they are still around. They're still awesome. They have had a new life lately. They have a recent EP. They are working on a new full-length album. My man Jarvis Leatherby is their manager and bass player. He's also in Night Demon. If you like your American new wave of trad heavy metal, and Surith Ungol, this song is awesome. Brings me back to my teenagehood. I love this track. This has always been my second favorite track on here.
Yeah, it's a great track. And yeah, they just put out Forever Black in 2020, and before that I'm Alive in 2019, and they had been a little but they had a pretty reasonable recording career. They had 4 albums on their original run.
Yeah, they play a lot of heavy metal festivals. A lot of trad metal people still look up to them and copy them.
I'm gonna have to check some of that stuff out. And next we move on into Demon Flight and their track Dead of Night. I think Death of the Sun and Dead of Night probably should have been back to back, but
yeah, it's all right.
It's all right. I believe this is the band that basically did nothing after this.
Mm.
If memory serves, all they did was like a single later. Yeah, they had a single in 1982. And that's it. Flight of the Demon, which had 3 songs on it. So not a bad song, not an amazing song, is what it is. Then next is Fighting Backwards by Pandemonium, which is probably the dumbest title on this album.
Pandemonium is actually a pretty good band, and that they also didn't do a lot, but they also had an interesting kind of couple of years after Metal Massacre. They might be the 3rd or 4th most successful band off of here.
They had 3 records, and that's been it. They had 1 in 83, 1 in 85, 1 in 88, so just never really broke.
Mm.
So my guess would be they're probably just kind of opening for bands, hoping to get lucky, and just didn't. And that's the thing about the music industry is what we are looking at on this particular compilation. Actually, let's talk about Malice, then I'll get back, and then I'll circle back to that. Then we have Malice again. So now I'm circling back to that other point because I have nothing else to say. I mean, this Malice song is just like the other one. So circling back, this compilation album is probably one of the most interesting things, and it really spotlights how the world can change for an artist and a band in just a matter of moments. So, I've heard stories about, oh, so-and-so didn't want to be famous. They didn't want to do this. They didn't want to do that. The moment you release music into the world, the moment you put your name onto a recording contract, the moment your music is in a store, you have signed a binding magical contract that you could be famous. And what do we have next?
Metallica.
We have Metallica's second recording of their very first song, Hit the Lights, which, if I'm being honest, is the worst song off of Kill 'Em All. It's not bad. Not great. Right. Really? No Life to Leather. We're going to kick some ass tonight.
It does what it says on the tin, to quote my British friends. It does what it says. I mean, like in 1980, 81, 82, 83, that is American metal. That is American metal.
Yeah,
that's what they were going for.
I know. It's like gangster rap 10 years later where they got to sing about how they're gangsta. Here they have to sing about
even
how
though they're
metal.
rich and they don't.
Yeah,
That's they had to sing about how they're metal. I will. Yeah. This is like how Metallica even got on Metal Massacre in the first place is a miracle.
It's a mystery. No one knows.
Well, I mean, so Brian Slagel's book, which he gives his life story as it's half memoir, half the history of Metal Blade. So he launches Metal Blade on the back of this compilation. Didn't know what it was going to do. Didn't know it was going to become a phenomenon, underground and otherwise. Lars is Brian's friend and is, well known in the scene as that guy. He keeps saying, I'm going to have a band. Wait till you see the band I'm going to do. I often mock people today who are like, well, you don't even know what I have in store. I usually pick on those people because I don't do that. And I don't think you should do that, anybody out there. But Lars tells Slagel, I've got a band and a song to put on the comp. And then it's like the opening of Network. Lars is literally running to give Brian the tape on the last day possible before the record is pressed that he cobbled together at the original recording of Hit the Lights. He barely got it on. And barely got it. It's not even the quality of some of the other tracks on here. The new version is as good as some of the other tracks on here, but even that was raw. Okay. I will say this, the second version that's on this vinyl we are talking about today that I gifted to you, I actually like James's vocals better than on Kill 'Em All because he sings a little more, he's a little younger, and he's trying to sing instead of scream, those yelp to those notes, which he did the rest of his whole career. When he got
to Kill 'Em All, he was doing the Lemmy parody. Which is what he became
but the vocals on here where he actually holds some of those notes out is really good, and nobody coached him and told him to do it, or I don't know what he was imitating, maybe Dickinson, I don't know, but or Joe Elliott.
Pre-Dickinson.
Oh well, I mean, there's still Samson. Lars knew who Samson was. I mean, it's entirely possible.
Oh yeah, good point. I was gonna say, it was never released in America, but then I'm like, oh yeah, Lars,
and then also Di'Anno has, again, we did in the Maiden series how Di'Anno was a better singer actually now looking back on it, he's actually a better singer than we all remember because we all heard he was trash for years and years. He really wasn't. He just wasn't Dickinson. He just didn't have the operatic range. But he actually had some he had a good ear and he had some fine vocal parts. And same with James. This vocal, this is some of my favorite James's singing. Go back and listen to this version. That's on the new version, the second version that is on this repress of Metal Massacre. James is singing his ass off at 21-year-old James, that he wouldn't be able to do even until later on in his career.
No, he's not even. He's only 20.
Okay.
He was born in 1962.
Yeah. All right. So
I mean, Jesus Christ, he never had to get a real job. That son of a bitch. I
mean, he had some Joe jobs. He'll tell you about it, but Lars never had a job, actually, probably. Anywho, I still don't understand why Lars' sons are so tall when he's so little. So I know his dad was very tall. I'm wondering what's up with that. But anyway,
Lars isn't that little. He's 5'7".
It's shorter than me. I mean, shorter than you by a lot. And his sons are over 6'1" each. I stood next to them. I was looking up at them like this. I was like, dudes, I'm so proud of you. My neck. Anyway.
But so let's roll this back to the compilation a little bit here instead of Lars' sons. Although we can do a series on them. I love the fact that this particular album has the exact polar opposites in the world. Bands that did nothing after this, and a band that went on to great fame and fortune after this. I mean, how do you explain that? How do you wrap your head around that?
Part luck, part hard work, part sweat equity, part right time, right place, part just the magic of Metal Blade, plus John and Marsha Zazula, plus Michael Alago, plus Elektra Records, plus the culture of music, plus Ride the Lightning, yada, 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 and so forth and so on.
It's also amazing to consider that, Megaforce Records was a record label started by a dude that owned a record shop and a flea market.
Well, I mean, Metal Blade Records is a record label started by a dude that worked at a record store in a strip mall in California and had no bigger dreams than to the records he was importing and paying for and listening to, he wanted to do that for America. How do I put some of this great LA scene stuff that's not the popular stuff, even though he has Ratt and Black and Blue, who would go on to be part of that scene? How does he do that for America, for this new wave of America, this like sort of the new Wobble equivalent of America before thrash is even a thing? Because on future Metal Massacres, you have Slayer and you have actual thrash Megadeth and you have actual, Armored Saint and Metal Church become bands that their very first recordings are all on a Metal Massacre album. And he starts putting out records on the back of this compilation series that took over the whole underground. You can't appreciate it now because there's no such an equivalent thing in our culture, but it's like the equivalent of a SoundCloud rapper that has a song on TikTok and then gets a record deal. That's the only modern equivalent.
It's truly an American success story all the way around. And it still amazes me that Metallica didn't get signed by Metal Blade. I don't get that.
It's weird that they didn't. I think they love Johnny, and he could not have possibly had more money with a nascent label than Brian had after a year and a half of selling Metal Massacres. I don't think it was about money. But maybe it was also a thing where they wanted to get away from, maybe they thought with Johnny's connections, they would have a better entree to Europe. Mm-hmm. There's also a whole scene that, like they got a lot of love when they came east. So, I think there's a lot. It'd be interesting to find out that. I'd like to ask that question to Brian, actually. Why didn't Metallica stay with Metal Blade? Why isn't the Megaforce story the Metallica story? Why is the Megaforce story the Metallica story instead of vice versa?
Correct. And that is an interesting question. No, that's a question I would like to hear the answer to, because he ended up getting Slayer. But although Anthrax went to Megaforce as well.
Well, nobody wanted Anthrax. He had to beg Megaforce. Nobody wanted them. And I don't think they actually tried to be on anywhere else. They wanted to be on Megaforce, and that was it. And it may be, what happens if Megaforce never says yes to Soldiers of Metal? Like, what happens? That would be a whole good chaser. I'm grateful for this. You can't understate how the building blocks of Metal Blade are on this record, right? The basic original record, right? The diversity, bands led by women, no two bands sound exactly alike. They're all in the same subgenre, little bits of different, hard rock, heavy metal, new wobble, proto thrash, the nascence of thrash metal, American thrash metal in its real raw form. The idea of a comp, the idea of zines, how this tape trading built a whole culture, all comes out of this comp in a way in our scene that hasn't happened in our scene since really the same way. Punk scenes have had a lot of different things, Maximum Rock and Roll, Triple X Magazine, all kinds of things. Didn't tape trade as much, but their culture was like go hang out at the all ages fest all day. And metalheads were a little older, drank beer, and you had to really get those tapes to understand who the bands were before you went to go see them. Because some bands you could never go see. You only had them on a tape. Whereas punks seem to play out a lot for their supper.
It's an amazing snapshot of a moment in time. And Johnny Resnick in a commercial once said that songs are pictures of time. And that's why we call them albums of music. That's not true, but it is true.
It kind of is, yeah. Johnny Resnick of the Goo Goo Dolls, who was a super punk kid in the Buffalo punk scene before Iris and, whatever.
Oh, yeah. Else. What label was he on?
Metal Blade.
It was not on purpose. Nailed it. But, it's so hard, I think, for most people to consider a time when American metal didn't really exist. And this is the moment where American metal burst out of the ground. The tree hasn't grown, the flowers haven't bloomed, there's no grapes on the vine, but it's coming. And you can look at that tree, look at that plant and say, this is going to be something. this tree is going to make it. And it did. And now this is the kind of American ingenuity that takes an idea and turns it to uniquely ours.
Nicely said. Nicely said. Yeah, I don't really have any more to add to this. Congratulations on 40 years to Metal Blade. I'm still hopeful I'm going to get to interview Brian about this, but he's doing very little press. I think he did such a huge round of press a while back for that book that he's probably not going to say anything new we haven't heard before about the history of Metal Blade. 40 years of Metal Blade, 41 years of Metallica, 40 years plus of Ratt, maybe 43 years of Ratt. Silver Thungal still around. Other bands not still around. Black and Blue not around really. But
there is a Jamie St. James and Tommy Thayer EP coming out of demos.
All right, that's interesting.
I'm not going to buy it. I won't be buying it, but it exists.
You sure you're not going to buy it? You love Tommy Thayer.
Do you know how many Black and Blue records I've had in my hand over the last 3 or 4 years?
A lot.
All of them, I think. And every time I've gone, no, I don't want this. Although if I did find a copy of Nasty Nasty, I would probably pick that one up.
Fair enough.
If I can get it. I mean, not for like $10, like $5.
Very fair.
Sorry, I'm rambling now. So
we're done, I think. And again, props to Metal Blade, props to Metallica. You can go see Metallica. If you're listening to this podcast and the sounds of our voice or watching us on YouTube, you can check out Metallica all summer in Europe. Hopefully they keep up the good work. And pepper in some of those older jams that I think people want to hear. And man, that's about it for this chaser. Do we want to briefly talk about the next series?
Yeah, go ahead and drop it like it's hot.
Drop it like it's hot. I just saw Snoop Dogg. La 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 la. It's the motherfucking D-O-double-G. The next series of the Glacially Musical podcast and YouTube extravaganza is going to be on an unsung band from the aughts. I think our first band of the aughts.
First aughts.
And this is going to be not a typical band you all know. It's a band I'm fond of. Nik has very little connection with. This is Fireball Ministry. So get your weed, get your whiskey, get your wine, get ready to get rocked.
Hopefully this is the time when you finally convince me.
All right. I don't know.
Did I? You've tried to convince me on other bands, and it
convinced you of King's X's greatness without much effort.
Oh, okay, that's fair. You did do that one.
And I think I convinced a lot of fans too, because based on the traction those episodes got before we were really on YouTube. So those are pretty good pods, and I stand by that. Maybe at some point I will collect all the series and put them out one at a time on Ghost Cult, where you can listen to them all in a row. That might be cool. I just have to have time, which I have none of. But yeah,
time is. I barely have time to do these, and I make sure I've always got them. So I do the best no one has time. Time is the most valuable resource, and I am happy that you choose to spend yours with me, as I love spending mine with. Wait a minute. I don't know. I love doing this.
Same.
Everyone who has been listening, and I'm just going to say this. Knock on wood, we are coming up on the 100th episode of the Glacial Musical Podcast and YouTube extravaganza. So Keefy's only been involved since I think episode 20-ish, but it's been a long run, and we're going strong and we're going hard, and pants off, dance off. We'll keep going as far as I know.
Wild.
But with that, I will say thank you very much for listening. The biggest thing you can do to help us out is send a tweet, share, like, subscribe. That's, like, comment. Those are the biggest things you can do.
Ideally, I would like them to listen and watch also, but
if you've gotten to this far, you're listening and watching. So
that's also true.
Okay. We forgot to talk about hockey. Real quick, today the Rangers are playing Game 7. Good luck. Knock out those bunch of jerks. And the Blues have been wiped out in heartbreaking fashion in Game 6. And that is it. This is the Glacial Musical Podcast. Keefy has to turn it off. It doesn't play in Peoria.
Thanks for reminding me. I definitely would not have it. We would have a very awkward ending. Peace, yo.